So yesterday, my wife and I went to the hospital to go visit Miss Pat, and while I was in the parking lot, there was this pickup truck that backed in and took up 2 spaces. I'm a little bit weird about parking, and it really ticks me off. Bad parkers tick me off when they park too close to you where you can't get into your truck, or they park so close to one line where there's no way another car could get into the spot beside them. So while I'm thinking to myself, what kind of a jerk would, as tight as parking is over here and as hard as it is to find a space to park, this guy's taking up 2 dang spaces. Well, while he's doing that, another car comes in and directly across from me pulls in and does the same thing, takes up 2 spaces. And while I'm going through my mind about how just awful people are, the guy in the pickup truck beside me that's taking up 2 spaces opens up his door, and then it's a truck like mine where you it's a half cab where you can open up the back door from the driver's seat, and he starts digging a wheelchair out. And then I realized why he was taking up 2 spaces, because there was no handicap spots, and he had to open up both his doors fully to get his own wheelchair out and then get himself in it. So I kind of felt bad about being a bit of a prick about parking. I didn't say nothing to him, of course. It was just me thinking how other people are terrible parkers, and it ticks me off. So anyway, I hopped out and I said, sir, can I help you with that? And he didn't need any help. But the other guy that pulled in across from me, who took up 2 spaces, yelled at me, I could use a hand if you don't mind. And I looked over, and he only had 1 leg, and he was in his car, and same thing. He had to take up 2 spaces because he had to open his 2-door car, which, you know, a 2-door, the doors are a lot longer than on a 4-door. That was a Wascom police going between Marshall, Texas and Wascom. He's headed back to Wascom. Well, anyway, so I said, yes, sir, what can I do for you? He goes, I'm going to pop my trunk. Would you mind getting my wheelchair out and rolling it over to me? And I said, not a bit. And I did. I got his wheelchair out of his trunk, closed his trunk, opened his wheelchair up for him, and rolled it over. And he had to use his door and the roof of his car to get himself up on 1 leg and get into a wheelchair. And again, I felt like, you know, I should just mind my business about other people's parking, and that's my rant for the day, my BC Sunday rant. You know, as you get older, you tend to get a little bit more cynical than normal, than you say you would be at the age of 30, and you tend to cut people a little less slack if they're not doing things the way you think they ought to be doing them. And sometimes it takes something like that to remind you that you just gotta cut people slack. Not everybody's a jerk, and not everybody's doing it the way you don't like it just to piss you off. Sometimes they, you know, you don't know the circumstances. And it's just like driving. If you come up on a slow driver and he's holding up traffic, maybe that guy is driving as fast as he can possibly safely drive, and he's somewhere he hasn't been before, and he's looking for a road, and you know, there's a whole lot of extenuating circumstances that we don't tend to consider, and the older you get, the easier it is to fall into a habit of not cutting people slack. And anyway, I'm not going to go on and on about it. And now I'm going to tell you my Waffle House story, but I got to do that when I get home. I'm going to Lowe's right now to get some pipe insulation. Since my new plumbing has gone in, I got to insulate some pipes underneath my mobile home before they skirt it in. I can't get it skirted in before I call a final trim out people, and they put the rest of the vinyl up. And I can't call the final trim out people until I get my AC installed, and I can't call the AC guy to come install it until I get my electrical problem fixed. It never ends. See you in a minute. I'm going to tell you that story when I get home. Okay, I got my Lowe's stuff, and I'm headed back to the house. I think I'm going to go ahead and tell you that Waffle House story, just because it's a 20-minute drive back to the house. So my wife and I, we hauled air freight from airport to airport, and normally we hauled freight from Houston Airport, the George Bush International Airport, to LAX, back and forth. And it was usually Houston. There's an animal going to get run. There's one run over there and one fixing to get run over here. Man, boy, people letting their dogs run. So we had a regular run, Houston, LA, Dallas, that triangle, over and 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 over. That was a very long, boring run. Anyway, that's not the story. Sometimes on the weekends, they would have us take a load from Dallas up to Kansas City and back. Well, one time we took a load to Kansas City, and man, they had just this most god-awful ice storm. Everything was covered in ice, and we got to eat, and we got to take a shower, and we need fuel to make it through the storm. You know, you sure don't want to get stuck in the middle of a storm and run out of fuel. So we dropped our trailer at our terminal in Kansas City at the airport, and bobtailed up north of there. There's a Waffle House, and I think it's a QT truck stop or some kind of weird name. It's not really a truck stop so much as it is a travel stop. They got parking for a few trucks, but they sell fuel. And right near there is a Waffle House, and we usually knocked out a shower and ate and got fuel and bobtailed back to the yard and by the airport. Well, this one time the ice was so thick and so heavy, I pulled up into the Waffle House parking lot, and they had done nothing. No sand. Oops, damn it. Oh, hang on. I just barely made it. Everybody okay? So, I pull up into the Waffle House parking lot. Hold on, let me double check my mirror here. Sorry for the gaps in the story. Alright, we're good. And I notice when I get in the parking lot, which is on a hill, maybe you're getting where this is going, that they've done nothing to their parking lot. Nothing. Sand, salt, nothing. And right away I get about halfway in there and I start sliding backwards. And I slide where my drive tire bumps into a concrete curb in the parking lot. Well, fortunately there's nobody behind me, right? But the curb slows me down. And I'm sitting in the seat. I've got it in 13th gear. What I'm trying to do is burn my way through the ice, and I've done this before, down to the tar, so I get enough traction to either back out of their parking lot or pull up into their parking lot. And the truck is steadily sliding back a few inches at a time because I'm up against a curb. If I wasn't against the curb, it would have just let me go. Well, what do you think happens is this car comes, and now my wife is outside the truck by now, and she's trying to keep people from pulling in behind me. And this girl in a station wagon comes flying up in a parking lot and parks right behind my truck. And my wife is screaming at her, "Move your car, move your car, move your car." And they go, "What? Why? Why do I need to move my car? I know my rights." And she points at me. She's saying, "That 18-wheeler is sliding backwards on the ice. If you don't move your car, it's going to crash into your car." Oh. She moves it in a nick of time. And I slide out into the road, which is, now this has been 20 minutes of me sliding backwards and trying to figure out a way out of there. But just so happened to be a drugstore next door. So I run next door to the drugstore, and they have kitty litter. And I buy all the kitty litter they have. And I throw that kitty litter all around my tires, all around my truck. And I managed to get my truck out of there and back onto some pavement that has been sanded and salted. And that was a close one. I almost slid back into somebody. And bubble-headed, blonde-haired girl. I don't know if she was a waitress at the Waffle House or not, but she parked way out there at the edge of the parking lot where I was, which is where I park my trucks. Anyway, that's my Waffle House story. Have a good weekend, y'all.